For some students, going back into the classroom is not a choice. With so many students attending classes remotely this fall, many families across the country are navigating uncharted territory. Parents already struggling to make ends meet must now juggle work and having their kids at home all day. Senior business correspondent Stephanie Rule has been looking at that. Stephanie, good evening.
Good evening, Lester. So many families were living paycheck to paycheck even before COVID. And because so many schools will be virtual this fall, some parents are forced to make impossible choices to keep paying the bills and also keep their kids' education on track.
There you go. Nice.
The Mullen family started 2020 on shaky ground.
We were really thinking, literally, where are we going to live if we cannot continue to pay our bills?
But things began looking up this spring when Chris, an Air Force combat veteran who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, finally landed a steady job with an irrigation company. They were climbing out of debt, but COVID had other plans.
And we cannot necessarily make the choice that one of us is going to have to leave our jobs to be able to help with our son during the day.
Their 6-year-old Britton must start first grade remotely at his home in Texas. Mom Aubrey is struggling to juggle parenting and work.
I feel like I'm spread so thin.
While she has one child at home, many others rely on her at the Texas clinic where she's a pediatric nurse.
It's a role where you have to use your heart, but it also causes such confliction. Should I give that much? Because the one that suffers in the end is our little boy.
The Mullens say 85% of their income goes to bills. They fear the cost of childcare and say if either has to stay at home to facilitate at-home learning for their young son, they won't be able to survive.
We've honestly strived to cut what we can. Cable internet, our insurance, our groceries, even our health insurance.
Now millions of parents nationwide are in the same boat. In an NBC News survey, 45% of families say they've had to reevaluate their budget due to at-home learning. 6 in 10 say they or a spouse have had to change their work hours. And 4 in 10 say their financial stability has been affected.
A lot of folks that I've spoken to refer to this as it's just utter chaos.
Are there parents out there who are deciding between caring for their children in person or being able to work and afford to feed their children?
I think particularly of the single parents who have to hold both roles. They're the primary caregiver to their children and they're the primary breadwinner.
Coming down.
Like Latasha Kendrick, a New Jersey single mom of a 6, 7, and 11-year-old. What is the number one thing on your mind right now?
Finances, my children.
Kendrick says she's overcome years of hardship, but if her kids have to learn at home, it will destroy all her progress.
I'm going to quit if I have to.
You wouldn't be able to collect unemployment. How scary is this time for you financially?
It's really scary. They're going to need a roof over their head, food on the table. I have to figure it out.
Kendrick says she earns just over minimum wage. She gets some assistance, but says 2/3 go straight to essential bills.
I want to have hope, but I fear.
So when you hear people say, oh, well, there's tons of jobs out there, but people would rather stay at home.
I don't want to stay at home, but if I have to for the sake of my kids, I will.
Parents across the country facing unbearable choices as their children's education hangs in the balance.
We just are trying to rationalize how we're going to survive. We know that we cannot afford to stay home like many other families.
The Mullens are still figuring out what to do. One option is to send their young son across the state to family who can help facilitate online learning. But Lester, no parent wants to send their child away. In Latasha's case, her school district still hasn't given a final answer on whether her kids will be back at school or at home. It's very difficult. Lester?
Yeah, a lot of families will find that story very familiar. All right, Stephanie, thank you. As we